MySpace.com is still up, so it says here MySpace is still active, though it is a shadow of its former self, largely a music-focused platform now with a diminished user base. Many of the old features are broken or gone. So that's not quite the same thing because it's not dead. We would have to think about something that no longer is like no longer exists. Um, I'm sure there are examples of that. There are game engines that are no longer used. But this goes back to something I said yesterday is like a lot of those older games won't even run on modern machines because they were built for a different time. And there's a reason why we can't run those things on Windows 11 machines. And you have to use like an emulator, and people have to program. Yeah, I read that yesterday. Anthem, or Stoic, they're finally shutting Anthem down. Um, I'm surprised it went as long as it did, to be honest with you, post announcement that they were abandoning it. But that's the perfect example of it has now become cost prohibitive. Like it was okay for them to continue to maintain the servers because they had enough. It was you could kind of look at that as like a tax write-off. So a good example of this Stoic is like I still maintain my websites for my travel blog, and even though I don't, Chris and I have not been active on that travel blog since 2017. I have not published a single blog post since 2017. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 8 years. 8 years we have not been travel bloggers, and I still maintain the website, and I still pay like $250, $300 every year for all the hosting and the URL name and everything else. Why do I do that if I'm not actively using it anymore? And I'll tell you why. Because it's a tax write-off. So for me, the cost of maintaining that, even though I don't use it anymore, is a tax write-off for me. So I can bury that cost. Now, if it ever gets to the point where it's no longer financially viable for me to maintain that, I'll just let it disappear. And that's Anthem. Anthem was a tax write-off for many, many years. We can run the servers, and it doesn't matter that it's not an active product. We can continue to run those servers every single year and let that community of 10,000 players continue to exist because it's a tax write-off for us. But it apparently has gotten to the point where it's no longer financially viable for them to do that, so they're just going to write it off and drop it. My wife is up. I'll be right back. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Mother X says, "Excuse the total cluelessness here. What is a tax write-off? You mean that you can pay for that, but the government refunds it?" Yes, it's a tax deduction, so it's a business expense. So any business expenses that I submit at the end of the year reduce my total amount of taxes owed. So if I owe $1,000 in, if I have $1,000 of taxable revenue and I have a $250 deduction, I now no longer owe a thousand. I don't have $1,000 of taxable revenue. I have $750 of taxable revenue. So the more tax deductions you have, the less tax you pay at the end of the year because you have business expenses to offset what you would otherwise owe. So, if you make 50 grand a year as a freelancer, if you gross $50,000, what you do then is you take all of your deductible expenses and you take that off the top of what you owe. So if you have $15,000 of deductions for the year, your taxable income goes from $50,000 down to $35,000. So now you only owe tax on $35,000 versus 50. So that's how tax deductions work. So yes, that's why many companies, many individuals will continue to maintain LLCs and different because it's this is what I meant when I said yesterday a lot of gamers lack business knowledge, and so they make these wild accusations about game companies and what should or shouldn't be done with rights and copyrights and all this stuff. And it's like, I think a lot of people need to, what needs to happen is schools, like when you go through like basic school, there's two things that really need to be taught in grade school and high school, which is finance. We need to teach kids about money, and we need to teach people about intellectual property laws and copyrights, because those are things that impact, especially in the day and age where everyone's a creator. And like, what are your rights when it comes to your own photographs and social media content and everything? Like, it's a big thing. Um, Uh, Sparky says, I can respect IPs and copyrights to an extent, but in my opinion, there are serious issues with copyright laws that should be addressed. Having an IP for a character game world setting is such an understand, but when we have copyrighted general words or mechanics, that seems like crossing the line of acceptance. For example, you said trademarking the word saga, or like Nintendo copyrighting a mechanic is just off. But well, Nintendo, you're not wrong, but you're talking about trademarking. That's different than copyright. Trademark is different than copyright. So trademarking the word saga, yeah, it's a shitty thing. But if you don't do it, if you don't protect yourself in an aggressive fashion, someone absolutely will take your shit, steal your work, and leave you penniless. That's just the world we live in. It sucks. It sucks. But that's the world we live in. And if you don't play by those rules, you will get fucked by those rules. And that's the thing about all of that. Because like, but here's the thing: Nintendo copyrighted the mechanics such as a creature summoned from an object because of Pokemon, right? The Pal World situation. A lot of people are like, "Oh, but poor Pal World." No, 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 not poor Pal World. Pal World's developers willingly took a concept and copied it so closely that Nintendo was able to convince a judge. Because here's the thing, um, you have to prove to a court before you're allowed to initiate a lawsuit. You have to prove to the court, you have to prove to the judge that you have an actual case. You have to prove to them that you have a case. And in the case of Pal World versus Nintendo, Nintendo was able to show with such blatant evidence that Pal World copied them that that's a court case. Um, the word thing is a pain in the ass, and I agree that it's scummy, but that's the world we live in, and you either play by those rules or you don't make games. Um, the Nemesis mechanic from Shadow of Mordor. I mean, Yeah, but it's a patented system. It's a really cool concept. It doesn't matter that they're not going to use it anymore or that they shuttered the studios. They came up with the concept. They have the right to protect that concept. Like Transcend says on a Transcend says, I'd like to add that it's irrelevant what people think in terms of what is fair from a morality standpoint. At the end of the day, it's someone's property. Yes. Yes. That is what that is what patents, trademark, copyright, and intellectual property law protect. The rights of the creators and the rights of the owners. And until you have actually created something as an individual, I feel like you're never going to understand that. Like, as someone with, I have so many things that I've created that are mine. It doesn't, but that's the thing, Sparky. Respectfully, I'm going to read your comment. Nintendo hasn't had an original idea in decades. I agree that Pal World did it dirty, but at the same time, it showed how much more Nintendo could have done with Pokemon if they had an incentive to evolve. So, with all due respect, have you published a game? Have you published a book? Have you published music? Seriously, because that's what it comes down to. It's expensive to create new things, even if you have an existing idea that works. And it's all well and good to sit there and say, Nintendo should do this. Are you going to give them the money to do that? Like, it's tricky, man. Like, I'm not trying to say that to be a dick. I'm just saying, like, it's all well and good to criticize from the sidelines, but until you're willing to put up millions of dollars to create something and then defend that something against people like Pal World, like, they're obviously making enough money with Pokemon that they don't feel the need to evolve it beyond what it is. That's like people who say that Disney needs to do this, that, or the other with Star Wars, or that Paramount needs to do this, that, or the other with Star Trek. Okay, pitch your idea to Disney, pitch your idea to Paramount, prove that you have an idea. Um, it's like it, it 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 takes a lot of money to create things and to defend them against the competition. Um, the shitty part about being in business, any business, whether it's music or video game development or others, is that you have to defend your shit. That's the shitty part about being a creative, is you have to be an aggressive asshole about your rights, because if you don't, someone else is going to come along and steal your shit. And people can accuse you of, well, you're not doing anything with the idea. We should be allowed to. No, come up with your own idea. Like, there's nothing wrong with riffing off of a concept, but when you make something that's a blatant copy and then your legal defense is, well, you weren't doing anything with it, I should be allowed to do something. That's not a legal defense. That's we're still talking consumer rights versus property laws. Yeah, and exactly. The more governments are involved, it sucks. What about music nowadays? Oh, well, the Spotify thing is shitty, man. Musicians make next to no money on Spotify, unfortunately. But yet, there is no other option if you want to get your music out there streaming wise. Spotify is like the big platform if you want your music to get noticed. But Spotify is not, they do not offer a fair percentage to musicians at all. Oh, we got to go back to the Motherhood Terminal, which is right down the road.
Very impressive work, Remember the coffin Higgs used to make his escape from the weapons factory? Well, it seems we've identified a similar-looking object. The mechanic, whose shelter you're slated to link up next, reached out to us. He's asked us to go and retrieve this object on his behalf. I'll give you a more detailed briefing as you review the request. Accept the main order on this delivery terminal to proceed.
You're gonna come over here and ask for... You never asked for cariño. What's up, mama? Dude, she never comes over here and asks for attention. She's... Wow, are you okay? You are my feral street cat who we adopted 2 years ago. Are you purring? Are you purring? You are purring. What is up? I have to be very careful with her. She bites really, really bad. That's a first. She wants to go out. She's at the door. I'll be right back. I gotta let her out. All right. Chris actually already made more coffee, so I'm going straight to a third cup without having to wait for breakfast. Okay. The cat was asking me. Yeah, we're about to switch over to Dune here in a few minutes, Slacker. Bilbo's Wagons over on Twitch says, "Can you play music while you're delivering packages or only in the private room?" I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea if that feature has been changed because I haven't been paying attention to that feature because I can't play the music because I'm streaming, so I have no clue.
Hello, Sam. Charlie here. This next order requires you to retrieve a piece of cargo. Said cargo is located somewhere within this armed survivalist's base, and is a distressingly familiar coffin-shaped object. Additional devices of unknown purpose appear to have been delivered to the base as well. While much remains unclear, securing the coffin for study may provide us with intel on Higgs and his movements. The mechanic is eager to conduct an analysis, and we have every intention of cooperating with him. That's all the additional information I have for now. There may be more surprises in store for us during this operation.
Oh, I guarantee you.
So take all due care in plotting your route and finalizing your equipment loadout. We're counting on you, Sam.
Guarantee you that's going to be a gnarly mission.
accepted. Thank you. Thank you, Sam.
But anyway, we will be switching over to Dune Awakening here in probably 10-15 minutes. I'm almost to the 2-hour mark. I'm trying to do at least 2 hours every morning, 2 to 3. We'll see. The current agenda is like in 10 minutes we'll switch over, but I might decide to keep going. We'll never know. But 2 to 3 hours Death Stranding 2 every morning because I got to try to clear this game by the 15th, and I got a lot of story left. Really, what I need to do is stop yapping about random subjects and just play the fucking game. But I like rambling, and people ask good questions, so hashtag worth it. Yeah, if you have limited time, you just gotta stick to 1 or 2 games, you know?
That's all right.
Nope. No offense taken whatsoever. I am happy to discuss topics even when people don't agree with me on them. The difference is when people say stupid things like, well, your opinion is trash. Eh. It's like, no, that's not how this works. That is a grenade. Back away. I'm not even attempting stealth right now. I'm like, I got a truck with guns on it. Screw y'all. Yeah, the ramble is a part of my streams, generally speaking, yes.
Look there, Sam. It's the coffin.
I see it.
Be careful. Higgs may still be inside that thing.
Who is still chucking grenades? Come here. Cargo almost ruined. Cell sample. I guess I have some cargo that I have to worry about. Enemy base neutralized. That's right, we could take them all out, and then we're taking all their shit. So I've got ceramics, I've got this. I've got pizza. I've got metals. Let's go load these in the truck. I need to find a. My truck is severely damaged, though. I've got to get back to Magellan and like fix my truck. Oh, this is all the stuff that's on the truck. Yeah, we gotta put that, and that on the truck. Hang on, this is being silly.
Let's get a move on.
Looks like you have what was requested. All that remains now is to drop it off.
Nah, please tell me that I can figure out a way to get this on the truck. Are you fucking kidding me? So it wants me to, what happens if I get in my truck? Dude, I can't leave my truck here, man. Do I gotta come back for this? Dude, I think I'm gonna have to come back for that because it wants me to drag it. Because it won't let me put it in this truck. So it was on the other truck. I'm like, that kind of seems stupid that I can't load it onto a vehicle.
You're mine.
Well, I'm not a fan of this. How am I gonna do this? I'm gonna load. Let me see if I can load. It feels like I should have just. If it was on that vehicle, I think they obviously no. See, it already saved it. Fuck, man. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. Because it won't let me load it onto a vehicle. It wants me to drag it, which means I would need like a... Alright, now we got music playing, which I gotta mute. Huh. I feel like I kind of borked myself by not stealing the vehicle that it was on. And now I'm going to have to go back and pick it up by foot, on foot, and drag it across the landscape. That seems like poorly designed. On top of which I had to mute the music, so that's another poorly designed thing. Little quirks in Death Stranding 2, kids. I do not know now how I'm going to do that. Well, first things first, I gotta load my truck up here. Alright, music is done. No, my truck's not too full. It just wouldn't flat out let me load it. So it was loaded on a truck.
As good
I
as
took
new
it
to
off the
me.
truck to put it on my truck. It just flat out won't let me.